Jack Miller stood at the tall glass window of the Galactic Council's main chamber. Earth looked small from here, a blue dot hanging in the darkness. 50 years had passed since humans first met aliens, and things had changed a lot since then. "Captain Miller, please take your seat. The council is ready to begin," said a voice behind him. Jack turned to see a thin alien with blue skin. This was Trell, helper to the council head. Jack nodded and followed Trell to the human section. 5 other human officials were already seated, looking nervous. The grand chamber was huge, with seats for all 27 alien races of the Galactic Council. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange that Jack still couldn't believe they were real, even after 20 years working with aliens. The council head, a tall alien named Vorex, stood up, his 4 arms raised for quiet, and the room fell silent. "We gather today to discuss a matter of great importance," Vorex said, his voice deep and slow. "The rapid growth of human space power has caused concern." Jack felt a cold feeling in his stomach. He had heard rumors about this meeting, but had hoped they weren't true. Vorex continued, "Humans have been part of our galactic family for only 50 years. Yet in that time, they have built ships faster than any new race before them. They have made weapons that match those of races who have been in space for thousands of years." Murmurs filled the room. Jack looked around. Some aliens nodded in agreement. Others looked uncomfortable. "This quick growth threatens the balance we have kept for so long," Vorex said. "Therefore, the Council has decided to create the Galactic Limitation Treaty. All races must follow these rules for shipbuilding, but they will most strictly apply to humans." A large screen appeared in the center of the room. It showed lists of rules and numbers. Maximum ship size, 500,000 tons. Maximum weapon power, 15 terajoules. Maximum shield strength, 25 gigawatts. Maximum engine speed, 5 light years per day. The list went on. Jack tried to keep his face calm, but inside he was angry. These limits would make human ships weaker than those of almost every other race in the Council. "These rules will keep peace and stop an arms race," Vorex said. "They are for the good of all." Jane Wilson, Earth's ambassador, stood up. "The United Earth government objects to these limits. They single out humans unfairly." "The vote has already been taken, Ambassador Wilson," Vorex said coldly. 25 races voted for the treaty. Only humans and the Krill voted against. The treaty will start in 30 Earth days. As they left the council chamber, Jack walked beside Ambassador Wilson. "This is bad, Jane," he said quietly. "Those limits will make our fleet almost useless." "I know," she replied. "Admiral Ross wants to see you as soon as we get back to Earth. She's not happy about this." 3 days later, Jack entered a room deep under the United Earth Government headquarters in Geneva. Admiral Helen Ross was already there, along with 5 people Jack didn't know. "Captain Miller, thank you for coming," Admiral Ross said. She was a short woman with gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. "What I'm about to tell you is top secret. If any of this leaves this room, it would be high treason." Jack nodded, suddenly even more worried. "The limitation treaty is not what it seems," Ross continued. "We have good reason to believe the Council is hiding something from us. Something dangerous." She touched a screen, and a star map appeared. It showed the edge of Council space, then a large empty area, and then nothing. Just a black void where stars should be. "Our deep space probes have found this. Hundreds of star systems, just gone. Something is eating the galaxy, Captain. And the Council knows about it." One of the strangers, a tall man with dark skin, spoke up. "We think the Council isn't trying to limit us because they fear us. They're limiting us because they want us to be weak when whatever this is arrives." Jack felt cold again. "You're saying they're setting us up as what? A shield? A sacrifice?" Admiral Ross nodded. "That's exactly what we think, and we're not going to let it happen." She stood up straighter. Captain Miller, you're the best shipbuilder Earth has. I'm putting you in charge of a new project. We're going to build a ship that follows every rule of the treaty on paper, but breaks every rule in reality." "How is that possible?" Jack asked. A woman with short black hair laughed. "I'm Dr. Diane Wu, weapons specialist. I can tell you it's very possible with the right team." Admiral Ross introduced the others. Dr. Thomas Webb, engine expert, Marcus Ryan, AI systems engineer, and Dr. Alex Rodriguez, materials scientist. "This is Project Loophole," Ross said. "You'll work from a hidden base in the asteroid belt. Your job is to build a ship that can fight whatever is coming." Jack looked at the team. They all looked back, waiting for his answer. "The treaty inspectors will watch everything we do," he said. "They'll have spies. How can we possibly hide something like this?" Marcus smiled. "That's the fun part, Captain. We don't hide it. We build it right in front of them, but they won't understand what they're seeing until it's too late." Jack thought for a moment, then nodded. "All right. When do we start?" "Now," Admiral Ross said, handing him a file. "This is your new home for the next year. The fate of humanity might depend on what you build there." As Jack took the file, he looked again at the star map and the black void where stars should be. Something was coming, and despite what the aliens thought, humans weren't going to just sit and wait for it. "We'll need a name for the ship," Jack said. "I thought Loophole would be fitting," Thomas said with a grin. Jack smiled back. "Perfect. Project Loophole it is." As they left the room to prepare for their mission, Jack couldn't help but think about the irony. The aliens had made rules to stop humans from becoming too powerful, but those same rules would push humans to build something beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. The aliens had made a mistake. They had challenged human creativity. And that was one fight humans never lost. The asteroid base looked small from the outside, just a gray rock among thousands of others in the belt between Mars and Jupiter. But inside, it was a hive of activity. Jack walked through the main workshop, watching as hundreds of engineers and workers built pieces of what would become the most advanced ship ever made by human hands. "Captain Miller." Thomas Webb waved from across the room. The engine expert was standing next to a strange metal ring that glowed with a soft blue light. Jack walked over. "Is that what I think it is?" Thomas nodded, his eyes bright with excitement. "The first nested dimension drive core. On paper, it's just a standard FTL engine, exactly at the treaty limit of 5 light-years per day. But when activated with our special sequence," he touched a panel, and the blue glow changed to purple, then red. The air around the ring seemed to bend. "It creates a pocket dimension inside our dimension. The ship will appear to move at normal speed, but actually, we'll be folding space. Real speed. Maybe 50 light-years per day, maybe more." Jack whistled. "The council inspectors won't detect this." "Not unless they know exactly what to look for," Thomas said. "And this technology doesn't exist anywhere else in the galaxy. We invented it." Jack felt a surge of pride. This was why he loved working with humans. When pushed into a corner, they always found a way out. "Captain, you need to see this," called Diane from another part of the workshop. Jack followed her voice and found her standing next to what looked like a normal shield generator. "Treaty-compliant defensive shield, maximum strength 25 gigawatts," she said with a smile that suggested it was anything but normal. "What's the trick?" Jack asked. "It's not one shield. It's 5,000 micro-shields layered together. Each one is under the limit, but together, we're looking at power levels the Council has never seen." Jack nodded, impressed. "And the weapons?" Diane pointed to a row of small, innocent-looking metal spheres. "Those are emergency flares according to the paperwork. Very weak, very safe. And in reality, each one carries a quantum fold charge. When activated, it expands to 50 times its size and releases energy that could crack a small moon." Jack raised his eyebrows. "That's quite a flare." We humans have always been good at understatement, Diane said with a wink. On the other side of the workshop, Marcus was working with a glowing cube floating above a table. "Meet ARIA," he said as Jack approached. "Adaptive Responsive Intelligence Array. The brain of our ship." The cube pulsed with light as if saying hello. "The treaty limits AI complexity," Jack reminded him. "Yes, it does," Marcus agreed. "But it doesn't limit how many simple AIs you can connect together. ARIA is actually 10,000 basic AIs working as one. Each is treaty compliant, but together they form something more." The cube changed colors, cycling through the rainbow. "Is it aware?" Jack asked quietly. "Not exactly, but close. Close enough to understand context and intent, not just commands. It will be able to react to threats in ways no council eye could predict." Jack was about to ask more when Dr. Alex Rodriguez called him to yet another station. Here, workers were applying a strange, shifting material to what looked like hull plates. "Our special ingredient," Alex said proudly. "We call it adaptive metamaterial. According to all standard tests, it's just basic hull plating, exactly at the treaty strength limit." Alex picked up a small sample and handed it to Jack. It felt normal, like metal. "Now, apply pressure while thinking about making it stronger," Alex instructed. Jack squeezed the material, concentrating. To his amazement, the sample became rigid, its color deepening. "It responds to quantum brain patterns," Alex explained. "In normal conditions, it reads as standard material. But in combat, when the crew is focused on survival and strength, it becomes 10 times harder than the hardest material known to the Council." Jack handed the sample back, shaking his head in wonder. "This is incredible work, all of you. But we have another problem." He called the team to a private meeting room and sealed the door. "Council inspectors will be here tomorrow," he said. "They're sending their best team. We need to be ready." "All our components are technically legal," Diane said. "Yes, but they're not stupid," Jack replied. "If they see all these pieces together, they might guess what we're building." "So we don't let them see everything together," Marcus suggested. Jack nodded. "Exactly. We need to run a shell game. Move pieces around. Hide the true purpose of each component." For the next 12 hours, the team reorganized the entire workshop. They created fake projects, mislabeled components, and prepared careful lies that were almost truths. When the Council inspection team arrived, led by a tall, stern alien named Kraz, Jack was ready. "Welcome to Research Station 12, Jack said politely. "We're happy to show you our work." Kraz's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "We will see everything, Captain Miller. The Council has concerns about human activities." "Of course," Jack said with a smile. "We have nothing to hide." The tour took 6 hours. Kraz and his team scanned everything, asked endless questions, and took samples of materials. Jack and his team answered everything truthfully, just not completely. When they reached the section where ARIA was being built, Kraz paused. "These are many simple AIs," he noted. "Why so many?" "Redundancy," Marcus explained. "If one fails, others take over. Safety first." It wasn't a lie. It just wasn't the whole truth. Finally, Kraz seemed satisfied. "Your work appears to be within treaty limits, Captain Miller. But we will return. Often. Without warning." "Our door is always open," Jack said, still smiling. After the inspectors left, the team gathered again. "That was close," Thomas said, wiping sweat from his forehead. "It will get closer," Jack warned. "They suspect something. Not what, exactly, but something." "How long until they figure it out?" Diane asked. Jack looked at the scattered pieces of the loophole, the ship that wasn't supposed to be possible. "We have 6 months, maybe less. We need to speed things up. The hull is only 30% complete." Alex said, "We need more time." "Time is the one thing the galaxy might not have," Jack replied, thinking of the empty void where stars should be. Whatever is coming, it won't wait for us to be ready. That night, Jack stayed late in the workshop, looking at the growing shape of what would become Loophole, a ship built from loopholes, from human creativity, and the will to survive. They made rules to stop us, he said to himself. They have no idea what they've started. Because if there was one thing humans had learned throughout their history, it was this. Tell a human they can't do something, and they'll move heaven and earth to prove you wrong. 6 months into the building of Loophole, alarms blared throughout the asteroid base. Jack ran to the command center, where Marcus was already at the main screen. What's happening? Jack asked. Unknown ship just entered the solar system, Marcus said, pointing to a blinking dot on the screen. It's not a council design. And look, it's damage. The image zoomed in to show a strange ship. Its hull was cracked in several places, and it moved in an unsteady path. It's heading right for Mars, Thomas said as he entered the room. At that speed, it will crash. Jack made a quick decision. Prep the rescue shuttle. Thomas, you're with me. Diane, keep the base on alert. This could be a trick. 30 minutes later, Jack and Thomas, along with 4 security officers, approached the damaged ship in their small rescue shuttle. Up close, the alien vessel looked even worse. Parts of its hull were melted, and a strange black residue covered one side. No council markings, Thomas noted. I've never seen this design before. Jack opened a communication channel. Unknown vessel, this is Captain Jack Miller of Earth. Do you need assistance? For a moment, there was only static. Then a raspy voice replied, Help, please. We are refugees. Jack looked at Thomas, who nodded. We're coming aboard to help, Jack said. Please open your docking port if you can. The damaged ship managed to open a small hatch. Jack and 2 security officers entered carefully, weapons ready just in case. Inside, the air was thin and smelled strange. The corridors were dark, lit only by emergency lights. They found the bridge, where 3 aliens sat or lay slumped at control panels. They were unlike any aliens Jack had seen before. Tall and thin, with gray-green skin and large, dark eyes. One stood shakily as the humans entered. Thank you, the alien said in halting English. I am Krell. My people, the few. We have fled. Long journey. You're injured, Jack said, noticing dark fluid leaking from a wound on Krell's side. We'll get you medical help. Can you tell us what happened to your ship? Krell's large eyes blinked slowly. Harvesters. They came, destroyed our world. We only survivors. Harvesters, Thomas asked. I've never heard of them. Council. Hides truth, Krell said, his voice growing weaker. Harvesters. Eat worlds. Many worlds. Coming here next. Jack felt a chill run down his spine. The empty space beyond Council territory. That's the Harvester's work. Krell nodded weakly. Yes, Council knows. Has known. For centuries. Back at the asteroid base, Krell and his 2 companions were treated in the medical bay. Their wounds were strange, almost like acid burns that continued to spread slowly even after they were cleaned. Jack called an emergency meeting with his team. It's worse than we thought, he said grimly. According to Krell, these harvesters have been destroying civilizations beyond Council space for hundreds of years. The Council has known all along. Why wouldn't they tell everyone? Diane asked. Why not prepare all races to fight? Because they're cowards, Marcus said, his face dark with anger. They're using us, aren't they? As a buffer zone. Jack nodded. Krell says the Council has a pattern. They find new, promising races, limit their military growth, then place them at the edge of Council space. When the Harvesters come, these races slow them down, giving the Council time to prepare their own defenses. A heavy silence fell over the room. We should tell Earth, Alex said finally. Tell everyone. The public needs to know. And then what? Jack asked. Panic. Even if all humans knew, what could we do? The treaty is still in force. We can't build proper defenses openly. So we finish loophole, Thomas said firmly. It's our best chance. But even loophole is just one ship, Diane pointed out. From what Krell says, the harvesters come with fleets of world killers. Jack looked around at his team. We need to know more. I want Krell to tell us everything about the harvesters, their technology, their tactics, their weaknesses. Later, when Krell was stronger, he met with the team in a secure room. There, he showed them recordings from his ship's memory banks. The images were horrifying. Massive ships, looking almost alive, with hulls that seemed to pulse and change. They surrounded planets, draining them of resources, including all life. The Fuse homeworld was shown before and after. First a green, vibrant planet, then a gray dead rock. Harvesters consume all, Krell explained. Energy, resources, life, even information. They learn from each world they take. Adapt to new defenses. How do they attack? Diane asked, taking notes rapidly. Biocorrosive weapons, Krell said. Living metal that eats through hulls, shields, flesh. Mind jammers that disable electronic systems. And the void. They create dead space where no energy can flow. Alex looked thoughtful. My metamaterial might be able to resist the biocorrosive attacks if I adjust it. And I could modify our shields to create counter-frequencies for these mind jammers, Marcus added. As they talked, a plan began to form. Loophole would need to be redesigned, but with Krell's knowledge, they could make it specifically effective against harvester technology. There's something else you should know, Krell said when they finished discussing technical details. Council believes harvesters still 50 of your years away, but they are wrong. Harvesters move faster now. My people's scientists calculated their speed. They will reach your solar system in less than 1 year. The room went silent again. How? How can you be sure? Thomas finally asked. Because harvesters follow patterns, Krell said. They send scouts first. Small ships to test defenses. He pointed to his own wounded body. We escaped such a scout. It was heading toward your system next. Jack stood up, his mind racing. We need to accelerate everything. Double shifts around the clock. Loophole needs to be ready in 6 months, not a year. The council inspectors will notice, Diane warned. They're already suspicious of how much material we're bringing in. Then we'll have to be more careful, Jack said. More clever. We've fooled them this long. We can do it a little longer. As the meeting ended and the team left to begin their new tasks, Jack stayed behind with Krell. There's something you're not telling us, Jack said quietly. Something about why the harvesters are coming here specifically. Krell's alien face was hard to read, but something like sadness passed over it. You are right, Captain. Harvesters. They are drawn to certain energy signatures. The Council knows this. When they approved human FTL drive design 50 years ago, they gave you one that creates this signature, like a beacon. Jack felt his blood run cold. They'd been setting us up from the very beginning. Yes, Krell said simply. That is why my people came to warn you. Long ago, the Council did the same to us. We were the previous sacrifice. Jack looked out the viewport at the stars. Somewhere out there, a force was coming that had destroyed countless worlds, and humans had been carefully prepared as its next meal. Well, Jack said, a cold determination in his voice. They're going to find this meal fights back. 3 months passed in a blur of activity. The asteroid base hummed day and night as workers raced to complete Loophole. With Krell's help, they made many changes to the original design. Alex modified his metamaterial to resist the Harvester's biocorrosive weapons. Diane reconfigured the weapon systems to target specific weak points Krell had identified. Thomas adjusted the nested dimension drive to avoid detection by Harvester sensors, and Marcus rewrote parts of ARIA to counter the mind-jamming technology. The ship was taking shape in the main construction bay. Even incomplete, it was impressive. Sleek and dark, with none of the usual markings or lights of a standard human vessel. It looked like a shadow given form. Jack stood on an observation platform with Thomas, watching as workers attached the last section of hull plating. "How close are we?" Jack asked. "About 85% complete," Thomas replied. "The main systems are working, but we still need to finish the secondary shields and the backup power grid." "And the weapons?" "Deanne says another week for final calibration." Jack nodded. "We might not have a week. The long-range sensors detected something at the edge of the system yesterday. It vanished before we could get a good look. But you think it was a Harvester scout?" Thomas asked, his face grim. "Maybe. Or maybe a Council spy ship. Either way, we need to be ready sooner rather than later." A loud alarm suddenly blared throughout the base. Red emergency lights flashed on. "Warning! Multiple ships approaching. Warning! Multiple ships approaching." Jack and Thomas raced to the command center. Marcus was already there, looking at the main screen with a face gone pale. "Council ships," he said as they entered. "A lot of them. At least 20. And they're not responding to our hails." Jack took a deep breath. "How much time do we have?" 10 minutes, maybe less. "Seal all entrances to the construction bay," Jack ordered. "Activate emergency protocols. Get everyone aboard Loophole who's going, and tell the rest to prep the evacuation shuttles." "You think they know?" Thomas asked. "Someone talked," Jack said grimly. "Or they figured it out. Either way, they're not here for a friendly visit." Marcus was typing rapidly at his console. "I'm detecting energy buildup in their weapon systems. They're preparing to attack, Jack." "Sound general evacuation," Jack ordered. "And get Admiral Ross on the secure channel. She needs to know what's happening." 5 minutes later, chaos ruled the asteroid base. Workers rushed to evacuation shuttles, while the core team made final preparations aboard Loophole. Jack was in the ship's command center when a communication came through from Admiral Ross. "Jack, I've just received word," Ross said, her image flickering on the screen. "The Council is accusing Earth of treaty violations. They're demanding we surrender the base and all research immediately." "We're out of time, Admiral," Jack replied. "We need to launch now, but Loophole isn't fully complete. Can it fly? Can it fight?" "Yes to both, but not at full capacity. We're missing some secondary systems, and the weapons aren't fully calibrated." Ross's face was grim. "Launch anyway. I'm sending defense forces to intercept the Council fleet, but it will take time. You need to get Loophole out of there." "What about the evacuation shuttles?" "The Council ships will be in firing range before they can get far enough away." "I'll try to buy you time with diplomacy," Ross said. "Just get that ship out of there, Jack. It might be our last hope." The communication ended, and Jack turned to his team. "Final launch preparations. Now." Diane looked up from her weapons console. "The main guns aren't properly aligned yet." "They'll have to do," Jack said. "We launch in 5 minutes." The team worked frantically, securing systems and preparing for an emergency launch. Krell helped where he could, his knowledge of Council tactics proving valuable. "They will target your engine sections first," he warned. "Council standard procedure for disabling ships." "Aye," Jack called out. "Reinforced stern shields." "Prepare for engine section targeting." "Acknowledged, Captain Miller," the AI responded, its voice calm and clear. Shields reconfigured. All systems ready for emergency launch. Just as they finished preparations, Marcus called out, "Council ships in firing range. They're targeting the base. Launch now," Jack ordered. The massive docking clamps holding Loophole released with a thunderous sound that echoed through the ship. Emergency thrusters fired, pushing the ship away from the asteroid just as the first Council weapons hit the base. Explosions rocked the asteroid, sending debris flying in all directions. Jack watched on the view screen as evacuation shuttles scattered, trying to escape the battle zone. Incoming transmission from the Council fleet, Marcus reported. Put it through, Jack said. The stern face of Kraz appeared on the screen. Captain Miller, you have violated the limitation treaty. Your ship is illegal and will be destroyed. Surrender now. Interesting timing, Kraz, Jack replied coldly. Just when the harvesters are approaching. Did the Council decide we'd make a better sacrifice if we couldn't defend ourselves at all? Kraz's 4 eyes blinked in surprise. You know nothing of matters beyond your understanding, human. That ship must be destroyed for the safety of all. Safety. Jack laughed bitterly. You've been setting us up from the start. You approved FTL drives you knew would attract the harvesters. You limited our defenses so we couldn't fight back. You have 10 seconds to power down your ship, Kraz said, ignoring Jack's accusations. Thomas, Jack said quietly, prepare the nested dimension drive. It's not fully tested, Thomas warned. Now Thomas. As Kraz continued his countdown, Thomas activated the special sequence. The air around the ship seemed to shimmer. 5, 4, 3. Now, Jack ordered. The space around Lufol twisted. To the Council ships, it appeared as if the human vessel simply vanished. In reality, Lufol had created a small pocket dimension, shifting slightly out of phase with normal space. They could see the Council ships, but the Council ships couldn't see them. It worked, Thomas said, his voice filled with wonder. We're in a dimensional fold. How long can we maintain this? Jack asked. An hour, maybe 2. The system wasn't meant to activate this early. Jack nodded. That gives us time to get clear of the immediate danger and... He was interrupted by a massive alarm from the sensor system. Energy spike at the edge of the solar system, Marcus reported, his voice shaking. Massive. Like nothing I've ever seen. On the main screen, a new set of readings appeared. Far beyond the orbit of Pluto, something was emerging from deep space. Something huge. Is it them? Diane asked quietly. Matching energy signature to Krell's records, Araya announced. Confirmed. Harvester vessels detected. Count, 7 major ships, approximately 30 smaller craft. Jack watched as the Council fleet suddenly broke off their attack on the asteroid base. Without any further communication, they turned and accelerated away from the solar system, abandoning Earth to its fate. Cowards, Diane whispered. They're following their plan, Krell said from where he stood at the back of the bridge. Sacrifice the edge worlds, retreat to the core systems, build up their defenses while the harvesters are busy with us. Jack looked at the screen, where the harvester ships were now clear enough to see. They were massive, at least 10 times the size of the largest Council dreadnought. Their hulls seemed to pulse and shift, like they were partly alive. Well, Jack said, settling into the captain's chair, they're about to learn that humans don't make good sacrifices. We fight back. He looked around at his crew, at the ship they had built against all odds and rules. Battle stations, he ordered. Let's show these harvesters what happens when you corner humans. Harvester ships entering Mars orbit, Marcus reported, his voice tense. Earth fleet moving to intercept. Jack watched the main screen as Earth's defensive ships, all built within the Council's strict limits, moved to face the massive harvester vessels. It was like watching children with toy weapons stand against giants. They don't stand a chance, Thomas said quietly. Then we need to even the odds, Jack replied. Thomas, get us closer, but keep us in the dimensional fold. Diane, prepare all weapons. Alex, status on the hull. Metamaterial at 92% efficiency, Alex reported from his station. It should resist the biocorrosive attacks, at least for a while. Araya, Jack called out. Run battle simulations. Find weaknesses in the harvester formations. Analysis in progress, Captain, the AI responded. On the screen, the battle began. The Earth ships fired everything they had at the lead harvester vessel. Their weapons, limited by the treaty, seemed to do nothing against the massive alien ship. Then the harvesters returned fire. Strange, writhing beams of energy that seemed almost alive shot out from the largest ship. Where they touched Earth vessels, the hulls simply dissolved. "My God," Diane whispered. "Those are the biocorrosive weapons Krell warned us about," Jack said grimly. "How many Earth ships do we have?" 53 in the main defense fleet, Marcus replied, plus another 20 that were under construction and launched emergency. They watched as 3 Earth ships were destroyed in seconds. The harvesters moved with surprising speed for their size, surrounding and isolating Earth vessels before destroying them. "Analysis complete," Araya announced. "Harvester vessels show a pattern. They protect a central node, likely the control ship, targeting data sent to weapons systems." "I see it," Diane said. "The big one in the middle. They keep the others between it and our ships." Jack nodded. "That's our target." "Krell, does that match what you know of harvester tactics?" Krell moved to look at the screen. "Yes. Queen ship controls all others. Hive mind connection. If you damage Queen, others become confused. Then we aim for the Queen," Jack decided. "Thomas, can you get us close?" "I can try," Thomas said, "but we can only stay in the fold for another 20 minutes at most. After that, we're visible and vulnerable." "Then we make those 20 minutes count," Jack said. "Marcus, send a message to Earth Fleet Command. Tell them to target these coordinates." He pointed to areas around the Queen ship. "They need to draw the defender ships away. Create a path for us." "Earth ships are being destroyed too quickly," Diane pointed out. "They won't last 20 minutes." Jack thought for a moment. "Araya, can you send a false energy signature? Make it look like a council ship in distress." "Generating signature now, Captain," the AI replied. "Send it from the far side of Mars," Jack ordered. "Make the harvesters think the council is trying a sneak attack." On the screen, they watched as several harvester ships suddenly broke away from attacking the Earth fleet. They moved toward Mars, searching for the false target. "It's working," Marcus said. "They're dividing their forces." "Thomas, take us in," Jack ordered. "Get us as close to the Queen ship as you can." Lufol moved silently through space, still hidden in its dimensional fold. The remaining Earth ships fought bravely, drawing more harvester vessels away from the Queen. But the cost was high. More than half the Earth fleet was already destroyed. "In position," Thomas reported after several tense minutes. 3 minutes until we lose the fold. "Diane, target the Queen ship." "All weapons." "Targeting," Diane confirmed. "But Jack, even with our enhanced weapons, can we do enough damage?" "We don't need to destroy it," Jack said. "Krell says the Queen controls the others through some kind of hive mind." "Araya, can you analyze their communication frequencies?" "Already scanning, Captain," the AI responded. "Detecting unusual quantum signal patterns between harvester vessels." "Can we disrupt those signals?" There was a pause as the AI processed the request. "Affirmative. Reconfiguring our communications array now. Note, this will require all available power." "Do it," Jack ordered. 2 minutes to dimensional shift collapse, Thomas warned. "Everyone, secure for combat," Jack said. "When we appear, they'll throw everything they have at us." The crew worked frantically, preparing for the moment when Lufol would become visible to the harvesters. Krell moved to stand beside Jack. "Your people fight well," the alien said quietly. "None have lasted this long against harvesters before." "We're just getting started," Jack replied. 30 seconds, Thomas called out. Jack gripped the arms of his chair. "Diane, fire all weapons the instant we shift." Araya launched the disruption signal at the same time. "Weapons ready," Diane confirmed. "Disruption signal prepared," Araya added. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The dimensional fold collapsed, and suddenly Lufol was visible, less than a kilometer from the massive Queen ship. Before the harvesters could react, Diane fired. The emergency flares shot out from loophole, expanding to 50 times their size as they approached the Queen ship. When they hit, the explosions were blinding, far more powerful than anything the treaty would have allowed. At the same time, ARIA broadcast the disruption signal aimed directly at the Queen ship's communication arrays. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The smaller harvester ships suddenly seemed confused. Some stopped moving entirely. Others began to move erratically, firing weapons in random directions or even at each other. "It's working," Marcus shouted. "We've damaged their control systems," ARIA reported, "but the Queen ship is adapting. Disruption effective for approximately 3 minutes before they recover." "Not if we keep hitting them," Jack said. Diane, second volley. The weapons fired again, this time targeting specific points that ARIA had identified as communication nodes. The Queen ship shuddered under the impacts. But the harvesters weren't defeated yet. The Queen ship turned toward loophole, its massive weapons coming to bear. "Evasive maneuvers," Jack ordered. Thomas pushed the engines to their limits as loophole danced around the much larger vessel. The Queen fired, a direct hit that would have destroyed any normal ship. But loophole's special shields held, the layers of micro-shields absorbing the energy. "Shields at 60%, Alex reported. "Another hit like that, and we're in trouble." "ARIA, can you boost the disruption signal?" Jack asked. "Processing. Yes, but it would require routing power from weapons systems." Jack looked at Diane, who nodded. "Do it." The AI redirected power, and the disruption signal intensified. On the screen, more harvester ships began to drift aimlessly or fire on each other. "The Queen is adapting again," ARIA warned. "Signal effectiveness dropping." "We need to end this now," Jack said. "Thomas, can you get us directly in front of the Queen ship?" "It's suicidal, but yes." "Do it." As loophole moved into position, Jack activated the ship-wide communication. "All crew, this is the captain. Prepare for maximum dimensional shift. We're going to try something that's either brilliant or the last mistake we'll ever make." Thomas looked at him with wide eyes. "You want to create a dimensional fold around the Queen ship?" "Just its control center," Jack said. "ARIA has identified its location. If we can shift it partly out of normal space, it might sever the connection to the other ships permanently," Marcus finished. "But Jack, we've never tested the fold on anything but ourselves. No time like the present," Jack said. "Thomas, on my mark. Diane, use our last weapons to create a distraction." Loophole moved into position, directly in the path of the enormous Queen ship. Diane fired the remaining weapons, creating explosions all around the Queen's hull. "Now Thomas." Thomas activated the nested dimension drive with a special sequence. This time, instead of folding loophole, it projected the field outward. Directly at the Queen ship's control center, space twisted. The center section of the Queen ship seemed to blur, as if seen through water. Then, with a flash of energy that temporarily blinded their sensors, part of the massive ship simply vanished. When their screens cleared, the Queen ship was still there, but it was dark and silent. And all around the solar system, the other harvester ships had stopped moving. Did it work?" Diane asked. "ARIA. Analysis," Jack ordered. "Harvester fleet shows no signs of coordinated activity," the AI reported. "Queen ship power levels falling. Hive mind connection appears to be severed." A cheer went up from the crew. Jack allowed himself a small smile. "We've won the battle," he said, "but the war is just beginning." He opened a channel to Earth. "This is Captain Jack Miller of Loophole. We've disabled the harvester fleet, but there will be more coming. The Council has betrayed us and all other edge worlds. They've been using us as sacrifices for centuries." He paused, looking at his brave crew, at the ship they had built by bending every rule imposed on them. "But today, we proved something important. When you back humans into a corner, when you set limits to hold us down, We don't just accept it. We find loopholes. We build impossible things. And we fight back. As the remaining Earth ships approached loophole, Jack thought about what would come next. More harvesters would come. The Council would try to maintain control. But now humanity knew the truth, and they had the beginnings of a technology that could fight back. The aliens had made rules to stop humans from becoming too powerful. Instead, they had only made them more determined to succeed. It was the biggest loophole of all.